بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على عبده ورسوله نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. We left off on the 13th point, the 13th note, at-Tadhkirah, on which the Matin al-Hafidh ibn Mulaqin rahimahullah says, وَالشَّاذ هو ما روى الثقة مخالفا لرواية الثقات. Defining a new sub-study or sub-branch called ash-shadh. Ash-shadh. Sheen, alif, dhal, coming from shadha. And the shadh hadith, the author, the matin, the compiler of the manual, he says, وَهُوَ مَا رَوَى الثِّقَةِ. It's the وَهُوَ الَّذِي موصولة. It's the hadith that a narrator who is thiqah brings and mentions مخالفا لرواية الثقات, which is mukhalif, clashes and goes against the narration of the thiqat, of the other narrators who are also thiqah. So he said, or pay close attention to the components of this definition. Number one, according to the author, this is only pertaining to riwayat al-thiqa. فَيَخْرُجُ بِهِ الصَّدُوقِ وَالضَّعِيفِ وَالْمَتْرُوكِ وَإِلَى آخِرِهِ. This excludes all things which are reported by people who are not considered to be thiqa. And who is a thiqa? In brief, a thiqa is one who has two staple characteristics. Al-adala wal-dabt. Good religious practice and strong memory. Retentive memory. Ability to hold the information or to write it down. That's a thiqa. Someone who has implemented and who is implementing the obligatory acts, avoiding the haram acts. If they have the ability to perform the recommended acts and avoid the disliked acts, that's even better. One who doesn't do things which make him weird and peculiar and totally standoutish, outlandish, sore thumbish among his people. And he or she has the ability to either memorize by heart or at least retain and write it down in the book and only report it from the book and not one's poor memory. That's the thiqah. And this hadith is mukhalif or mukhalifa. His riwayat goes against. He doesn't say munafiya, but he says mukhalifa. For riwayat al-thiqat, the author did not say maqbool, including the thiqa and the saduq, but he said thiqa. So we see a bit of a difference here and discrepancy. Let's just compare these three books, mathalan, from what we've studied in general, al-Bayquniyah, and also Nukhbat al-Fikr. Khayran, inshallah, very long discussion on what is and what isn't shadh. We're going to stick to the matin bi'idhnillahi ta'ala because it's mukhtasar, and we want the lessons to stay and remain mukhtasar. As a beginner, what's important, like we studied in the Bayquniyah, is that we learn here, is that this is a popular definition of shadh hadith. Not hadith reported by a liar or a kadhab, a mubtadi', someone who's da'if al-hifd, but the narration of someone who's considered to be thiqah. And for some reason or another, his narration goes against other reporters who have, or who are also thiqat. I.e., the narration will be accepted, or it will be acceptable if it wasn't for the fact that it went against the narration of other thiqat. So it's a reason why. We also studied in al-Bayquniyah that this is min al-shurut al-intifa'iyah, ay min al-shurut التي يجب أن تنتفي وأن لا تكون موجودة. These things here have to go away. They have to be non-existent and not present in order for the hadith to be authentic, in order for hadith to be accepted, in order for hadith to be hasan as well. Hadith hasan cannot have any shudud in it as well. Khayran, inshallah. Point 14. والمنكر وهو ما تفرد به واحد غير متقن ولا مشهور بالحفظ. He says the 14th point is munkar. The munkar is the hadith. Listen carefully to his definition. And this is before Ibn Hajar rahimahullah, is Ibn Hajar's teacher. And this goes to show you some of the differences among Ahl al-Hadith. How they do not agree on everything, unlike how some people try to make it seem that way. and also the different processes or how the evolution of Uloomil-Hadith, and how something was well known in a certain time period, and then an alim came and the science became based off of his definition, and other definitions were unknown and forgotten. All right, and then the people, they say istaqarra al-istilah, the science is established upon this and it evolved and so on and so on and so forth. Khairan inshallah. The munkar hadith, he says, is ma tafarrada. He doesn't mention mukhalafa here. Pay attention. He doesn't mention mukhalafa, but he mentions tafarrad. Compare this and compare al-Bayquniyya. Naam. He says, wal munkaru ma tafarrad bihi wahidun, is someone who reports a hadith like gharib, tafarrad. He's the only one who makes this narration. And this person is غير متقن ولا مشهور بالحفظ. This person is not someone who's mutqin, meaning he's not hafiz. He's not someone who's sharp. Nor is he mashhur. Nor is he what? He is not mashhur. He isn't someone who's well known. Well known for what? With those two things. Adala and dabt. Adala and dabt, as we mentioned. Now, Bayquni rahimahullah, he said, وَالْمُنْكَرُ الْفَرْدُ بِهِ رَابًا غَدًا تَعْدِيلُهُ لَا يَحْمِلُ التَّفَرُّدَ. He says that the munkar hadith is the hadith in which there's one person who he doesn't have the ability to be the only one reporting this narration. Similar to Ibn Mulaqin's definition. He's not mashhur and he's not mutqin. So his report is munkar, it's unknown, and it's rejected, it is not accepted, because he doesn't have enough strength to be the only one narrating this hadith, narrating this ruling in this hadith. And when we pay close attention to Ibn Mulaqin, unlike Ibn Hajar, he does not لا يشترط المخالفة. He does not make it a condition that there has to go against something else. Khairan inshallah. We mentioned this before. The ulama of hadith, they were way before Ibn Mulaqin and Ibn Hajar and Bayquni. Their science was very, very, very different. Far more flexible, far more formless. All right? Khairan inshallah. So that's his definition. Number 15. والفرد وهو ما تفرد به واحد عن جميع الرواة أو جهة خاصة كقولهم تفرد به أهل مكة ونحوه. He says, and the fard hadith is ما تفرد به واحد عن جميع الرواة, as one who reports it away from all of the narrators. He is the only one from all of the narrators. أو جهة خاصة, or a specific way. أهل مكة, أهل البصرة. نعم. كقولهم تفرد به أهل مكة, is like when they say the people of Mecca are the only ones who narrated this. In other words, we can't find no hadiths on Mas'al al-Khuffayn except from the Meccan narrators. No hadiths about the virtues of Ali, mathalan, this is an example, except for the people of mathalan, for the people of Kufa, mathalan. And we've explained this in some type of detail in the lessons of Taysir Mustalah al-Hadith with Dr. Tahan. And that's another book that you can refer back to with regards to comparing. Khairan inshallah. So that's al-fard. Then he mentions another term 16, which is very similar to fard, if not the same. Sometimes it's synonymous, and sometimes it isn't. And we also mention it in Bayquniyya as well. And look closely to all three things now. Munkar, gharib, and fard. And also, the fourth is shadh. Shadh, munkar, fard, and gharib. And draw, write on your piece of paper, a graph, or make a circle, and put another circle, make rings, and see where they're similar, where they're exact, and where they're different, according to these books that we have studied, and we plan to study. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. He says that the وهو ما تفرد به واحد عن الزهري وشبهه ممن يجمع أو يجمع حديثه كذا ضبط المعلق. He says here the غريب وهو الذي تفرد به واحد, يعني راو واحد, one narrator reports from a great scholar of hadith, someone who's well known, someone who has a lot of students and disciples, someone whose hadith is in circulation, and he's the only one يتفرد به. Okay, what's the difference between gharib and fard? Fard mutlaq, fard nisbi, etc. Now, one may ask himself the question. Point 17, branching off from point 16, he says, فإن انفرد اثنان أو ثلاثة سمي عزيزا فإن رواه جماعة سمي مشهورا ومنه المتواتر وهو خبر جماعة يفيد بنفسه العلم بصدقه والمستفيض وهو ما زاد رواته في كل مرتبة على ثلاثة. طيب, he says here, point 17, so if there are two or three, then the hadith is now called aziz. If the two or three reporters and narrators, if they make tafarrud, then it's called aziz. The question is, how can they make tafarrud? And there's two of them now or three of them. How is it now fard? And what's the purpose of using the terminology of tafarrud? And why not say rawahu? The author, however, this is his book. It's not our job to force him to word something how we think makes more sense or is more clear. He says, فَإِنْ انْفَرَدَ, he says here, if there are two or three, then it's called aziz. Pay close attention. The author didn't, just like Bayquniya, it doesn't say that there's one specific way for aziz, like Nukhbat al-Fikr and others, in which they say two, at least two. But he says two or three. Now, if he says, فَإِنْ رَوَاهُ جَمَاعَةً, if a jama'ah reports it, then it's called mashhur. What is the number and the count of this jama'ah? And why is it not mutawatir? How many do they have to be? 3, 4, 10, 12? It doesn't mention. He says, point 19, and from وَمِنْهُ يعني مِنَ الْمَشْهُورِ, he says that the mutawatir is from the mashhur, is the khabar of a jama'ah, how many people, and what's the difference between the mashhur and the mutawatir? If there's both khabar jama'ah, or rawahu jama'ah, he says, which gives you ilm, definite knowledge, binafsihi. You don't need no other supporting evidences, no other indicators, no other context clues. He says, huwa binafsihi yufidul ilm. It gives you sure, definite knowledge itself. Khairan inshallah ta'ala. That's what the author says, and it says, al-ilma bisidqihi. There's no doubt that this report is true. This report is verified. No? We've explained the mutawatir and what's meant by it in some type of detail, and Taysir Mustalah al-Hadith as well. Please go back to that playlist. He says, وَالْمُسْتَفِيضُ, and then he says the mustafid is the hadith that's reported by a number of narrators, which are more than 3 in each tabaqah, each martaba, each level of the isnad, at least 4 companions, 4 tabi'een, at least 4 atba' tabi'een, وهكذا. He calls this mustafid. The author or the mu'alliq, he says, نَفُنَّهُ الْمَشْهُورُ نَفْسُ. He says that's the mashhur itself. So we see here a difference between this book and let's say Nukhbat al-Fikr, as Nukhbat al-Fikr, regardless of the different views and opinions of Ibn Hajar that were similar or in agreement and consistency with those who came before him and those who came after him, regardless, is that we see Ibn Hajar's style, his usloob, how he wrote his book, was a bit more compact. It was leaner. It was a smoother cut. And we see the other books compared to Ibn Hajar, it's like, it's not as tight. 3 or 4 different terms can be summarized into one. All right, 3 different terms can be put into 2. All right, or some of them are repetitive. It's the same exact thing with just another name and another title. All right, and we know that authoring the books was of different styles. And all the authors, all of the ulama of hadith, they didn't intend to make it a specific set way. It was just taqreeb, yani, just giving you examples and similar things. Khairan, inshallah. Page or a note, type 21. He says, وَالْمُعَلَّلْ وهو ما اطلع فيه على علة قادحة في صحته مع السلامة عنها ظاهرة. He says the 21st type is that which is called al-mu'allal. Al-mu'allal with 2 lambs. He chooses the word mu'allal. Some say mu'all, some say ma'lul. Al-hadith al-mu'allal وهو ما اطلع فيه على علة قادحة في صحته is the hadith which a person discovers. He doesn't see up from the beginning or immediately, but eventually discovers and sees and finds out that there is something called illah, qadiha. It is a hidden glitch, a hidden reason behind the hadith being rejected. It is hidden, it is not clear, it is not obvious. And also, the author says that it's qadiha. It has to actually have to injure the hadith. It can't be something which is not really a big problem, in which they say, those who give this definition, they say, if a person narrates from Sufyan, and he said it was Thawri, but it actually was Ibn Uyayna, and he heard from both of them, he said, لا يضر لا تقطع, because both Sufyans are hafiz, both of them are thiqah, so it's no problem. But in reality, it is a problem because the illah shows that the narrator didn't memorize the hadith as he heard it. Wahim, he made a mistake. It's not Sufyan al-Thawri, but it's actually Ibn Uyayna, regardless of them both being hafiz or not. Khayran, inshallah, we don't want to go too far off the topic, too far off the matan. This is his definition. He says that as a hadith, at-Tuli'a, one discovers, one researches, and one eventually finds and sees that it is the hadith that has a illah qadiha. An illah qadiha. It has a leaking hole in it that you can't see, all right, which will eventually destroy it, like a slow leak in one's tire. Now, he says, ma salamati anha zahiran, even though it seems that it's totally free from it, all right. When you first look at it, it looks fine, it looks simple, nothing's wrong with it, but deep down inside, something is wrong with it, and there's a hidden glitch. Khairan, inshallah. He says, number 22, والمضطرب أو المضطرب بالكسر والمضطرب وهو ما يروى على أوجه مختلفة متساوية. He says, in the مضطرب is the hadith, listen carefully, وهو ما يروى على أوجه, is the hadith that is reported in different shades, different versions, riwayat, alfad, asanid, مختلفة, that are different, متساوية, and each version is equal in strength. Equal in strength. I.e., the hadith has been reported so many times in so many different versions by one narrator, it proves that he really didn't memorize it properly. We don't have any way of saying this student is better, this one is shadh, this one is stronger, this one is bigger, these are more people. They're all mutasawiya. All versions are equal. And that proves that the actual source of the hadith, the source itself, is the ishkal. That's the problem. Is that the shaykh nafsuhu qad ittarab. He himself is shaky. He is shaky. And all of the students reported from him in the same equal way, in equal manner. There's no student that's greater or this or that. They're all mutasawiya. So the shaykh himself, he didn't take the hadith properly from the beginning. This is called a hadith al-muttarib. And hadith al-muttarib, of course, is a type of hadith da'if. And the reason behind it being da'if is because it proves lack of precision. It proves that the narrator didn't lock it down from the beginning. Now, very strange, or not even strange, it's well known, but it's very interesting to see that we have a different type of hadith or no jadid, and when actuality muttarib is illa, muttarib is mu'allal. There's no difference between the two. It's a defect that can't be seen, that cannot be discovered until you look and gather all of the different turuq. You look into all of the different asanid and the alfaz, and you make the muqarana bayn al-ruwat, hifdhan wa mulazamatan wa ila akhiri. Who's stronger, who was there the longest, who has the most knowledge of his hadith, so on and so forth. Who actually was from Egypt, actually was from Sham, who actually was from his country, that stayed with him the longest, that knew his usloob, who got the ijazah from him, so on and so forth. That's muttarib is a type of the illah. But later on in different books, we see that they begin to separate the different things that were actually similar, and actually rather not similar, but actually the same. It's no different than the Arabic language and other rulings. Things became separate, and in the asl they were the same. Nahw and sarf was all one. Lugha al-Arabiya. Sciences of Lugha al-Arabiya. Naam, khairan inshallah. He says, وَالْمُدْرَجْ وَهُوَ زِيَادَةٌ تَقَعُ فِي الْمَتْنِ وَنَحْوِهِ. He mentions another sub-branch of the hadith mu'allal, which is mudraj. And mudraj is a ziyada, يعني من أحد الرواة. One of the narrators adds something to the actual text, adds something to the matan, وَنَحْوِهِ, and also to the isnad. It could be any isnad or the matan, but let's deal here with the matan. It could be a tafsir, it could be istinbat hukm fiqhi, or it could be the sub-narrator after him not making the necessary fasl, separating what Abu Hurairah said and what the Prophet ﷺ said. Naam. Prophet says that my ummah will be called yud'auna, on the day of judgment, they will be known, they will be seen and recognized, ghurran muhajjalin min athar al-wudu. They will have the brightness in their faces and their hands, their feet, the blaze of the horse. Min athar al-wudu, from the traces and the effects of the wudu. فَمِنْ اسْتَطَاعَ مِنْكُمْ أَنْ يُطِيلَ غُرَّتَهُ فَلْيَفْعَلْ. It says anyone who can extend it, then he should do it. They said that's Abu Hurairah's speech. Okay, and there are other examples of this as well, as of al-idraj. Al-idraj bima'na al-idkhal. They say interpolate. Alright, they say to put something in something that actually doesn't belong, but it falls and it seems as if it's the same to the naked eye. Once more, we can see that this is a illah. This is something that is not apparent, but it's not zahir, but it's khafi, it's ghanit. Naam. And the mudraj, as we said, has different reasons. Sometimes it can be kadhib, waliyadha billah, actual lie pertaining to a narrator. Sometimes it could be just a tafsir. Naam. كان يتحنث في غار حراء وهو التعبد ذات الليالي العدد ذوات الليالي العدد. طيب. And at-tahannuth, naam, is what? Is at-ta'abbud, is to worship Allah Azza wa Jal for many days. ذوات العدد. Naam, طيب. It could be in the beginning of the matan, the end of the matan, or in the middle of the matan. It could be tafsir al-gharib, it could be for istinbat, or whatever the case may be. There are many examples of that. There are many examples of hadith mudraj, sanadan wa matnan. What's important here in this mukhtasar is that the mudraj is no min anwa' al-hadith al-da'if. It does not belong there, even if it isn't necessarily a negative statement, but that's not the kalam of the Prophet ﷺ. Even if it's tafsir ibn Abbas or Abdullah bin Mas'ud said this and he said that, but it's not the kalam of the Nabi al-Kareem. So it does not belong apart with the kalam of the Nabi al-Kareem, and it should be separated and distinguished between what the Prophet said and what the companion said or what the sub-narrator said. Alright, and this shows you one of the most important guiding principles of Uloomil-Hadith, which is al-dhabt, is precision, diqqah, precision, sharpness, no sloppiness. Khairan inshaAllah. And we can see once more that the mudraj is a type of hadith al-mu'allal. Number 24, wal-mawdu' وهو المختلق المصنوع وقد يلقب بالمردود المتروك والباطل والمفسد. He says the 24th type is that which is called al-mawdu'. Al-mawdu', which we translate in English to mean fabricated, spurious, made up. The author says it is a lie. And the other terms and titles for it, sometimes called mardud, hadithun mardud, or sometimes called hadith matruk, or batil, or mufsad. Naam. And the other names and terms as well. Naam. The other terms and other what? Other names. Saqit, wahi, matruh, mutarah. Naam. What's important is hadith mawdu' is a very, very important field of study in Uloomil-Hadith. It in itself is a genre in itself, subgenre. The asbab al-wada', why people fabricate. Who are the famous people who fabricated? What were the different efforts that the ulama and the rulers of the Muslims of the past, what did they take up, what did they do to combat the fabricators and the movement of fabrication of hadith? So in brief, look at it like one of your friends, someone that you knew for a very long time, or not even for a very long time, but someone that you get pretty acquainted with. You hang around this person, you travel with this person, you eat, you drink, You argue, fight with your friend. Every family member, every family has problems. Naam. You make up. All right. You're friends with this person. This is your sister in Islam. Naam. Okay. And you know how the sister thinks, how she talks, how she behaves. You know how she writes, how she texts you. Naam. So, let's say she loses her phone and somebody starts to text you from her phone or WhatsApp you from her phone with all type of crazy messages. Crazy messages, crazy pictures, things that are totally unbefitting. So if this been your girlfriend, your sister in Islam for 10 years, you're going to automatically know from the beginning, whoa, she doesn't even spell her name like that. Says, this is Latifa, what you doing? Why would she even say her name if it's already well known who it is? Her name is saved in my phone. She spells her name with an I, and not Latifa with 2 E's. I'm here, I'm there, you're going to come and do this, and what? This is not her, this is not Latifa. Latifa doesn't talk like this. What is going on? So, due to the sheer fact that you know this person for such a long time, you know that that's la yushbihu kalamaha. That's not her speech. That's not her usloob. She doesn't talk like that. She doesn't spell her name like that. She doesn't address me like that. Something's weird. Something's up. Even though it is her phone number. Something's up. So someone who's an expert, who has good amount of common sense, is going to know that the phone was stolen or lost or something. And someone who's hasty says, Astaghfirullah, a'udhu billah. Look what Sister Latifa sent me. She sent me this picture and this video, and she says, let's go drink at the bar, and so on and so forth. But someone who actually knows Sister Latifa knows that that's not her kalam, that's not how she talks. Something's up. So, because you're around someone so much, and you've always been around their speech and their character, you know them. And the same applies to the Prophet ﷺ. And the Uloomil-Hadith, they've read so many of his authentic statements. They've read so much about his life. They know so many details about his personality, his character, his Sahaba, how he dealt with the Sahaba. They know when they hear a hadith, when they see a hadith, they say, هَذَا لَا يُشْبِهُ كَلَامَ النَّبِي صلى الله عليه وسلم. This does not look like the Prophet's statement. Rather, the hadith is batil. And he never even read the chain of narration. But I know, as one may say, third eye or one's spider sense, quote unquote, speaking metaphorically, my intuition, my gut feeling, this is not the kalam of the Nabi al-Kareem, period. How you want to say that? You don't even know. You can't speak without knowledge. I'm telling you, that's not a hadith. That's false. The Prophet doesn't talk like that. The Prophet would never say that. The Prophet did not disparage races or genders. He did not say that this person will be in paradise just because he's an Arab, and this person will be in hell because he's a Persian or he's an Abyssinian, and so on. The Prophet didn't talk like that. And that wasn't the message of the Prophet ﷺ. So this is one of the most important concepts of hadith criticism, and that is actually critiquing the metan and not just the isnad. Like the Orientalists, and not like the blind people who came and followed the Orientalists from the Muslims and from the East said that about the scholars of hadith. So therefore, the ulama of hadith, they knew what the Prophet ﷺ's kalam looked like. And as one of them said, that there are some hadiths that have a light on them, like the light of the day. And there are other hadiths that have a darkness on them, like the darkness of the night. Obviously, this can only come from a high level of skill and expertise and years of reading, studying, and memorizing. So there are different types of fabricators of hadith. All right? We have, for example, az-zuhad, the aesthetics, or those who practice zuhd, and they want to stay away from the worldly life. Or rather, some of the ulama of hadith, they said, I never saw people lie more than the salihin and the zuhad. We never saw people who are greater liars than the righteous, pious worshippers. What's meant by that is, because they worship so much, they fast so much, they read so much, they are in seclusion so much, away from the dunya, they totally lose their sharpness. And they want to call people to something, they read a book, they write a book, and they don't have no skills, no scholastic knowledge. And they end up making a lie against the Prophet ﷺ, whether they know it or not. All right? Trying to be something that they're actually not. Studying takes time, it takes devotion. You can't fast every single day and pray all night and not study and not do anything, not go to the marketplace to buy quills and ink and think you're going to be a scholar of hadith. All right? Also, we have the different people who fabricated hadiths who are qusas. They were storytellers. on the streets of Baghdad, in the mosques of Kufa, okay, in the different shores and banks, okay, of the different Muslim dynasties and countries, people that were storytellers, and people didn't want to hear hard facts. They didn't want to hear this, and they want to hear something that was amazing and interesting, just like today. People love entertainment. You give a khutbah about a story, they won't get bored. You give a khutbah explaining a hadith or saying this, people will get bored. People love to hear stories. They love to be entertained. They love sensational speech. This is the human being. So therefore, these people, they would make up hadith to get shillings, to get gold coins, to fill their coffers with money. And some of them wouldn't necessarily fabricate, but they would just, like the Salihin and the Zuhad, would be totally all over the place. No specific knowledge. And they wouldn't have enough humility to sit and learn what al-Hadith. By the time they would scorn al-Hadith. Also, we had different people who narrated fabricated hadiths, who were zanadiqah, who were heretics. They were kuffar in the inside. They never liked Islam, and they only accepted Islam because they wanted to destroy it. Okay? Because they didn't get something, or their country was conquered. All right? Qadisiyah, the Zoroastrians, the people of Shirk and Kufr were destroyed. They were vanquished on the battlefield. Allah gave victory to the Sahaba. He gave victory to the Muslims in this country and that country. So they were upset. They were jealous. We had a thriving society before these Arab conquerors came, before these sheep herders and these camel jockeys came on the scene and took us over. We could drink, we could do this, we could do that, we could worship. We wanted to, now they're saying that we can't do these things. And they knew that Islam was too strong. It could not be stopped from a front to attack. It was suicide. So they accepted Islam in a state of hypocrisy and with the intention of destroying it from within, okay? With the intention of making bogus narrations, destroying the reputation of the Prophet ﷺ, and saying certain things about the Arabs, against the Arabs, about the Persians, against the Persians, so on and so forth, to destroy Islam from within. This is another type of wada', fabricators of hadith. Also, there were fabricators of hadith with regards to different factions and the different madhahib, whether they were fiqh madhabs, or whether they were madhab aqadiyah, or madhahib aqadiyah, masharib, different views. I'm Shi'i, he's Sunni, he's Qadari, he's Khariji, he's Ibadi, I'm Hanafi, I'm Maliki. Abu Hanif was the greatest imam, period. The Prophet never ever raised his hands in a salat, period. Make up a hadith to support Abu Hanifa's view. All right? Unfortunately. Okay? Or with regards to Ali and Fatima and Hassan and Hussein. And they make hadiths about Abu Bakr and Umar and Aisha and Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, Salman al-Farisi and Bilal and Ammar and so on and so forth are here, and the rest of the Sahaba are there. They would make up these hadiths. There's all reasons behind there being a fabrication of hadith. Some of the ulama also mentioned with regards to the different sects and the political schisms with regards to Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala anhu and other companions, Dawla Umayyah, Dawla Abbasiyah, so on and so forth. They mention this. And the different types of hadiths which are fabricated. As we said, in different ways and signs that we can prove that a hadith is fabricated. We have mentioned more than enough in this mukhtasar. This is a summarized book and a summarized lesson. It's not the proper place for these details. Perhaps we can mention these in another lecture. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Walhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.